Okay.
Judon's probably a pretty good place to start. How do you plan to handle him, or what?
I'm sorry, who?
Matthew Judon.
Oh,
how do you
gosh.
have to try to account for him?
Well, we have to account for him and everybody else up front. You know, they're extremely talented up in the defensive line. You know, they're fundamentally sound everywhere. You're going to be challenged by not only their base fronts, but their sub fronts where they really excel and they create havoc and production and sacks. You know, we have a lot of respect. I've always had respect, you know, for the way that they play. And really nothing's changed over the last 12, 13, 14 years when you play the Patriots. You know, they have their base fronts, and it's out of the 3-4 origin, and then they obviously create a lot of different issues with personnel groupings, but they're a handful, you know, not only, you know, with the multiple personnel that they bring in the game and the alignments, but they're really sound fundamentally. They're as good as any team in the NFL when it comes to fundamental technique. So a lot of respect for what they do and how they do it.
Do they run more games up front than your typical team? Do they do a little
Yeah,
more
I think
stunting?
so. Yeah,
and
I would say so. I would say so. Most definitely. When you get into the sub packages, they have a good way of not only gaming you and giving you stunts in the base, but when they get into their sub packages, that's where it really takes off. You know, they'll get into their different alignments. They'll give you 2-man, 3-man, 4-man type stunts, and it's problematic if you're not all on the same page, if you're not aware, if you're not alert, and if you're not explosive enough to switch these off. They do a great job scheming personnel. They know who they want to pick on. They know who they want to target relative to the stunt itself and how they want to work off of their pick and roll, as we would say. So it's really challenging. So it's a lot of work that we've done, you know, going in. Not only do you have to handle just their base rush technique, but then it multiplies when you consider the amount of stunts and games that you're going to get during the course. You know, I think that's where their sack production has come over the years.
What about in the run game? I know you've gone head-to-head with Bill Belichick a bunch of times, but what can he do to kind of make things difficult for you guys?
Well, it's not schematic. It's fundamental technique, and that's what the game will come down to. As we have talked to our guys continually, you know, we've got to be precise. We've got to really execute at a high level so that our hands are right, our fits are right, our finishes, you know, are with great effort. They're a challenge, you know, and they do the same thing every day. So we know what to expect. But you can know what to expect, but you got to go block it up, you know, and that's the challenge. I mean, they're stout, they're physical, they're long, they've been around, they know what the system is, they've been in that system, most of them, whether it's Guy or Gottschalk or Juden, all those guys, if they know the 3-4 system, and they know how to play off of blocks. Their block recognition by their linebackers are outstanding. They know how to set the edge, you know, so they really prevent you from getting outside. They know how to build the wall so you can't really puncture, you know, your normal zone plays. So it's hard sledding. They make life hard on a running team. So, again, a lot of things that we had to go through in our preparation just to make sure, you know, our guys are ready to execute against a variety of things.
Bill, you've got a new center this year. Maybe not the guy you expected it to be, but how is Ethan Dunn kind of thrown into that position?
Yeah, Pulisic, interesting guy, great guy, works hard, you know, continues to improve, wants to get better, week in and week out. He comes in with a list of questions, whether it's, you know, from his previous night study or something that he's asking during the course of a meeting. You know, I like that about him. He has a curiosity about the position. The one thing I really am impressed about is his work ethic and how he works hard to improve his technique. So, you know, he came in here. Our system's a little bit different in the way that we teach it and the techniques that we use, but he transitioned well. I thought that you know, his ability to absorb these techniques and then come out and start to execute them, that was real progress. Now, he still has a long ways to go yet. You know, we feel like he's getting better, but he has some other steps that he can take, you know, in the protection world, and also some of the things in the run game that he can improve. So, you know, I really like how he's progressing, but, you know, we'll see. This will be a great challenge for him this week. He's got 2 nose tackles on him, that are really stout, physical, strong guys that, know how to play the buckboard system in 2 gaps. So it'll be a great matchup for him.
Bill, what about Jed this year and the way he's improved, especially not being hindered by that ankle injury like he was all of last year? Just what you've seen from him.
Yeah, I think that's a big factor. No excuse, but it's you're hurt, you're banged up, and you're not quite the same, and you push through it. I think from a mental standpoint, he's learned how to push through injury, how to push through kind of the nicks, and the bruises and the bumps that you normally get, in the line. And I think he's learned how to handle them. It was a great experience for him to go through last year because he had to fight through those things. And, it's hard to play at a high level. A lot of guys get out there and they play, but playing to win is a different thing. You can be out there playing, but are you playing at a high level and at a winning level? And I think he's starting to do that now. Excuse me.
Coach, I want to ask you about Wyatt. He wasn't a full-time starter here when you got him. He only a couple years in college. Is he still getting better, and where has he made his most strides?
Yeah, he's still getting better. He's still improving on a lot of footwork detail, mechanics, so to speak. His pull game is getting better. The spatial game we're still working on, when he's out in space in the screen game. He's working on that aspect, and showing improvement there as well. So all the little things that come up for a lineman, whether it's trapping on the edge, using the right shoulder, getting out in space on screens, being able to press up on a linebacker or defensive back in space. Those are challenging blocks. He's more of a mauler type player, but he's becoming more skilled in a lot of the things that he does because he does have length, he does have power, and he's learning how to use it, in different capacities, whether it's inline or whether it's in the spatial game.
Said the other day that he feels like the officials kind of have an eye out for him, that they're always watching, and he's gotten some calls that he shouldn't get. Do you see that?
I see him playing with good fundamental technique, and when he's not, you're going to get ragged, and that's just the way it is. I really encourage him to play with tight hands, and he's done a really good job of that. And sometimes when you have a physical mismatch, it'll look like holding, and it may not be holding, but that's kind of a fine line, that you go through, and we kind of live on that edge.
Are you worried you might lose Michael Dunn to the tight end room?
We are. We're concerned. He's had an impact on the tight ends, with his blocking, and he's a part of that society now, the tight end society, and he's gravitated to that realm, so we don't see him hanging around the line group as much anymore. He's having lunch with these guys all the time, so we're a little bit concerned here.
Say about him and Yelda that they've sort of embraced those opportunities.
Yeah, good guys. Just those roles that they play in. We bring them in. In a lot of different areas, and we'll continue to do that. We'll try to mix and match them formationally, and try to put them in spots where we can attain a matchup, and we utilize their strengths in that capacity.